Growing vegetables was essential for every family back in the day. Supermarkets didn't exist like they do now, so people relied on their gardens for food. Heirloom vegetables were grown mainly for their flavor and durability, not for looks or commercial purposes. Today, many of those old heirloom plants have been forgotten, faded from memory. Let's uncover 10 heirloom vegetables your grandparents grew that tell stories of a simpler, self-sufficient time. Cylindra Beet. Long before round grocery store beets became common, your grandparents were growing Cylindra Beets, a long heirloom variety from Denmark that was popular in the 1940s and 50s. These beets sliced into even rounds every time, which made them a favorite for canning and pickling. Cylindra Beets gave more usable flesh per plant and made the most of garden space. They handled hot summers and cool fall days, and they were ready in about 60 days. Many families planted them early in spring or again in late summer. If you remember beet and pickle sandwiches from back then, this heirloom plant may have been part of it. Dragon carrot. Back when carrots came in more colors than just orange, families in the 1920s and 30s were already growing dragon carrots. A deep purple heirloom vegetable on the outside and bright orange in the middle. These stunning purple-skinned heirloom plants hide a bright orange center that would make any dinner table pop with color. Folks back then grew them for their flavor, which has tasted better than the varieties you see in today's supermarket. Your grandparents knew these carrots had more antioxidants than regular carrots and stored beautifully through winter in cool, dark root cellars, and sowed its seeds from early spring through midsummer for a continuous harvest. Kids were especially attracted to it because of how pretty it looked, and they usually called it the magic purple carrot that tasted just as wonderful as it looked. Loquat is a fruit many of you might remember from Grandma's yard, but rarely see today. These small, golden fruits grew on ornamental trees that dotted front and backyards across America. From the 1930s, they offered the first fresh fruit of spring, sometimes as early as February in southern states.
Is in Lucedale, Mississippi, admiring this beautiful loquat tree that's producing fruit in the middle of winter.
While loquats thrive in zones 8 to 10, your grandparents in colder regions often grew them as decorative potted plants they could bring indoors during winter. Your grandparents valued these low-maintenance heirloom plants that provided sweet tart fruits perfect for jams, pies, and eating fresh off the branch. Children would gather around the trees when the fruits ripened, competing to collect the most. Loquats were nature's candy before sweets became everyday items you can buy from stores today. Number 4. Snowball cauliflower. Before cauliflower was chopped into pizza crusts and rice, your grandparents were planting the gold standard snowball cauliflower back in the early 1900s. These heirloom plants grew tight, snow-white heads that looked like they came straight out of a seed catalog. And they were not just for show. Families counted on snowball cauliflower to deliver steady harvests, even when the weather didn't cooperate. Folks planted these heirloom vegetables in early spring or late summer to avoid the intense summer heat. The flavor was mild, sweet, and nothing like the bland stuff in stores today can compare to it. Grandmas would harvest the whole head and set it out in a big glass jar next to the deviled eggs and beet salad. You didn't just eat with your mouth, you ate with your eyes too. The fish pepper is an heirloom plant that you'll remember because of its fascinating story. These beautiful striped peppers with variegated leaves were a staple in African American gardens around the Chesapeake Bay from the 1870s through the 1920s. They added beauty to any garden due to their white-streaked leaves and peppers that ripened from cream-striped green to red. They grow beautifully in zones 5 to 10, though gardeners in the north need to start them indoors. Grandpa told me their generation named it fish pepper because they used them in seafood dishes. You'd see them today in oyster and crab houses throughout the mid-Atlantic. Though they were nearly lost to history by the 1940s, fish peppers are making a small comeback thanks to seed savers who recognize their historical and culinary importance. Number 6. Mammoth Melting Snow Pea. If you ever snapped fresh peas off a trellis as a child, chances are it was the Mammoth Melting Snow Pea. Back in the 1930s and beyond, your grandparents grew these heirloom plants that made grocery store peas look like miniatures. The pods grew up to 5 inches long and 1 inch wide, but still taste really sweet, perfect for early spring meals. Gardeners in zones 3 through 9 planted them as soon as the soil thawed, giving a head start on the season. These heirlooms grew tall and steadily produced pods, ready for harvest for weeks. Grandma would harvest the pods when they were still young and tender, before the peas inside fully developed. Kids loved them and ate them as fresh snacks off the vine, and many never made it to the kitchen or dinner table. Number 7. Dandelion. Believe it or not, your grandparents didn't just consider dandelions as weeds. They deliberately cultivated these varieties in their gardens throughout the 19th and early 20th centuries. Garden dandelions, not exactly like the ones dotting your lawn today, produced larger, less bitter leaves that were harvested as a nutritious early spring green. Rich in vitamins and minerals, dandelion greens were often the first fresh vegetables available after a long winter of preserved foods. The beauty of these heirloom plants was their adaptability to every growing zone across America, from the coldest northern states to the deep south. Your grandparents sautéed them with bacon, added them to soups, or added the young leaves into salads. They even made dandelion wine from the bright yellow flowers, a tradition that's nearly disappeared today. And down south, no garden was complete without rows of Perkins' long okra pod standing tall even in midsummer. From the 1930s through the 1950s, Perkins Long was the okra variety of choice for many grandparents back then. This heirloom plant that doubles as a vegetable could grow as high as 7 feet, creating a dramatic backdrop in any garden while producing tender pods all summer. Your grandparents trusted this okra for its reliability in hot, humid conditions when other vegetables struggled. Folks planted them once the soil warmed past 65 degrees Fahrenheit after the last frost, especially in zones 6 through 11. The slender, ribbed pods remained tender and easy to chew even at 6 inches, longer than modern varieties. Whether fried, pickled, or added to gumbo, Perkins okra was a southern staple that everyone had their own way of fixing it, but remained the same. Back before cucumbers came wrapped in plastic, straight 8 cucumbers were the kind you'd find growing behind nearly every house. They first showed up in American gardens in the 1920s and quickly became a staple, especially in Victory gardens during the 1940s. These heirloom cucumbers grew straight as a ruler, about 8 inches long, with dark green skin and firm, pale flesh, and your grandparents knew them well. Folks used them in just about everything, like fresh summer salads, sandwich sides, and, of course, home-canned pickles stacked in rows down in the cellar. They planted these steady producers right after the last frost, once the soil warmed up to about 70 degrees Fahrenheit, perfect for zones 3 through 9. Kids often helped with the harvest, carefully snipping each one off the vine with a bit of stem left on. Grandma always said that little trick kept them fresh longer. The red Weathersfield onion was once America's most popular red onion variety. It dates back to the 1800s, with old-timers believing it helped build Connecticut's agricultural fame throughout the 1920s and 30s. They're flat, purplish red, and were extensively grown throughout Connecticut and other parts of New England, especially in Weathersfield, Connecticut, that was once known as Onion Town. Your grandparents valued these onions for their excellent storage capability and often kept them in cellars until late spring. Red Weathersfield onions are planted in early spring in zones 3 to 9 and are one of the first crops to go into the ground each year. They have this rich flavor that mellowed beautifully when cooked and were essential ingredients in countless family recipes. The onions grew dependably even in poor soil conditions, making them perfect for victory gardens during wars and family gardens during the Great Depression. Till today, these onions are so important to Weathersfield that you can still find their legacy all over the town. They even have a plush red Weathersfield onion mascot that appears at markets, stores, local festivals, and community events. It's a charming reminder of how deeply these forgotten vegetables are woven into American community history and local identity. These forgotten heirloom vegetables were more than food, and each variety was a part of your grandparents' way of life. They represent a time when families worked together to grow their food, when the flavor and nutrients of a plant mattered more than looks or shelf life. A time when gardens connected generations. And the good news is that these heirloom varieties are not completely gone. Dedicated seed savers have preserved many of them over the years. With a little searching, you can find heirloom seeds to grow your food. Trusted sources like Baker Creek Heirloom Seeds, Seed Savers Exchange, and Southern Exposure Seed Exchange offer many of these heirloom varieties. Check your local garden centers too. Many now have heirloom selections to meet growing demand. Whether you have a sprawling garden or just a few containers on a patio, consider growing one of these forgotten heirloom plants this season. And if you remember any of these heirloom plants from your childhood or have other heirloom varieties you'd like to share, leave a comment below. Please don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more American nostalgic presentations like this one. Until next time, happy gardening, and I'll see you in the next one.